Captain Marcus Webb sat in the command chair of the survey vessel Discovery, staring at the communication screen in front of him. The message had arrived 3 hours ago, and his crew had been working to translate it ever since. The words were clear enough now, transmitted in perfect human language from an unknown source in deep space. Marcus read the translation again, his eyes moving slowly across each line. Attention, primitive human civilization. The Galactic Empire has become aware of your existence. You have demonstrated limited technological capacity and live on a world that poses constant danger to your survival. The Empire offers you one option: complete and immediate surrender. In exchange for your obedience, the Empire will permit your species to continue existing under our rule. You have 72 hours to respond. Failure to comply will result in the conquest and forced integration of your people into Empire service. Marcus leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. Around him, the bridge of the Discovery hummed with activity. Dr. Lisa Park was running the message through every analysis tool available, searching for hidden meanings. Commander Alan Brooks was checking their weapon status, making sure everything was operational. The rest of the bridge crew worked silently. Waiting for Marcus to give orders. It was Lisa who broke the silence first. She walked over to Marcus's chair with a datapad in her hand, shaking her head. "The signature is genuine," she said. The message came from a ship approximately 2 million kilometers away. Our sensors detected them hours before they sent this message, but they were already in range. We didn't even know they were watching us. Marcus nodded slowly. "Can we outrun them?" "No," Lisa said simply. "Their ship is at least 3 times the size of ours. Whatever propulsion system they are using, it is more advanced than anything we have. We cannot escape, and we cannot fight them if they want to attack." Alan walked over and stood beside Lisa. His face was serious, but there was something else there too. Something that looked almost like amusement. He read the message on the screen, and then he looked at Marcus. "They want us to surrender," Alan said. "They are demanding that we surrender to them based on the fact that we are primitive and our world is dangerous." "That is what the message says," Marcus replied. Alan made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been something else entirely. Then the sound spread. Lisa started to smile. One by one, the bridge crew members turned toward the communication, and slowly, laughter began to fill the command center. Marcus understood it immediately. The Empire had made a fundamental mistake in their analysis. They had looked at human technology and found it lacking. They had looked at Earth and seen a dangerous, unstable world. But they had completely failed to understand what those things actually meant about human nature. A civilization that survived on Earth was not a weak civilization. A civilization that thrived despite constant earthquakes, hurricanes, volcano eruptions, and predators was not a civilization that gave up easily. A civilization that had built vast cities, created art and music, developed complex societies despite living on the most hostile world in the local region. That was not a civilization that would simply accept defeat, and they certainly were not a civilization that would take an arrogant ultimatum from an unknown power and respond with fear. Marcus stood up from his chair and moved toward the communication station. "Open a channel," he said. "Send a message back to that ship." The communications officer, Sarah Lewis, looked at Marcus with surprise. "What should I tell them, sir?" "Tell them that we have received their message. Tell them we acknowledge their superior technology. But also tell them that we are willing to discuss their proposal. Schedule a meeting. Tell them that Captain Marcus Webb of the human survey vessel Discovery welcomes their delegation aboard our ship. We will host a formal meeting to discuss their demands." Alan stepped forward. "Sir, is that wise? We do not know anything about their intentions. They could be planning to attack as soon as they come aboard. Marcus smiled. It was a real smile, one that came from deep understanding. They will not attack. Not yet. The Empire spent time and resources sending us a message in perfect human language. They are confident that we will surrender without a fight. They believe we are so primitive and so afraid that the mere knowledge of their existence will break our will. They want a surrender, not a battle. They want to add our civilization to their empire intact. So what do we do? Asked Lisa. We prepare, Marcus said. We prepare for something that the Empire has probably never had to deal with before. We prepare to show them that they have made a very serious mistake in their understanding of what human beings actually are. Over the next 70 hours, Marcus convened emergency meetings with his senior staff every few hours. They analyzed everything they could learn from the Empire's message, the language patterns, the technology signatures, the way the demands were structured. What emerged was a picture of a civilization that was ancient, powerful, and absolutely certain of its own superiority. But it was a civilization that had forgotten something important. The most dangerous enemy is not the one with the strongest weapons, but the one with nothing left to lose. When the Empire's delegation finally arrived, they came in a small shuttle that touched down in the Discovery's landing bay. The humans watched as the doors opened and an alien creature emerged. Lord Vaxmus was tall and composed of what looked like crystal or glass, with light moving through his body in complex patterns. Behind him came 5 other beings, each one clearly high-ranking in the Empire's military structure. Marcus stood at the entrance to the conference room, dressed in his formal captain's uniform. Behind him stood Dr. Lisa Park, Commander Alan Brooks, and First Officer Commander Carol Davis. The humans stood straight and tall, their faces calm and their eyes clear-eyed as Lord Vikaos approached. Marcus extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting and respect. "Welcome aboard the Discovery," Marcus said. "I am Captain Marcus Webb. We have much to discuss." Lord Vikaos stared at the hand for a moment, clearly uncertain what the gesture meant. Then he extended what might have been a hand of his own, and the two touched briefly. "I am Lord Vikaos," he said, his voice like wind moving through hollow spaces. "I have come to inform you of the terms under which the Empire will accept your surrender. Prepare yourselves." Marcus gestured toward the conference room. "Please come. Let us talk about what the future might hold. I suspect there are many things the Empire does not yet understand about my people, and I am very interested in learning more about you." As they walked toward the conference room together, the crew members exchanged knowing glances. The Empire had sent their best negotiator, fully confident that the meeting would be a simple formality. They had no idea what they were about to encounter. They had never met a species that responded to extinction threats with curiosity and humor instead of fear. The age of human empire relations was about to begin in a way that neither side expected. The conference room of the Discovery was designed to be impressive, but not threatening. Large windows looked out into the darkness of space, and a long table made of polished steel dominated the center of the room. Lord Vikaos sat at one end of the table, his crystalline form catching the light in strange ways. Marcus sat across from him, with his officers positioned around the table on both sides. The Empire's delegation took their seats, and Lord Vikaos immediately opened the datapad that displayed complex contracts written in Empire language and human language. These documents outline the terms of your integration into the Galactic Empire. Lord Vikaos began. His voice was cold and formal, the voice of someone who had delivered this same speech to hundreds of other species. As a primitive civilization lacking advanced technology, you will be assigned to labor divisions. Your people will work in manufacturing, resource extraction, and construction projects across the Empire. In exchange, the Empire will provide you with basic sustenance and protection from external threats. He pushed the contracts across the table toward Marcus. The contracts were thick, hundreds of pages, filled with legal language and binding agreements. Marcus did not touch them. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Thank you for the offer," Marcus said. "But before we discuss employment, I believe there are some things you should know about my people. You mentioned in your original message that we come from a dangerous world. Is that correct?" "Indeed," Lord Vikaos replied. "Our analysis shows that your planet experiences constant seismic activity, unstable weather patterns, and a high concentration of predatory species. Your survival on such a world indicates that you have developed only basic technologies for survival. This confirms your primitive status." Dr. Elisa Park leaned forward. "The Empire's analysis is correct about Earth being dangerous," she said. "But I think the Empire has misunderstood what that means. For 300,000 years, my species has lived on that world. In that time, we have survived ice ages where temperatures dropped so low that entire continents froze solid. We have survived asteroid impacts that should have destroyed all life on our world. We have survived volcanic eruptions that filled the sky with ash for years. We have survived pandemics that killed half our population." She paused and let that information settle. Lord Viseus remained expressionless. "And yet," Lisa continued, "we continued. We built cities. We created art and music. We developed science and philosophy. We did all of this not despite the danger of our world, but because of it. My people have learned to adapt to any environment. We have learned to solve problems that most civilizations never have to face. When we look at danger, we do not see reason for surrender. We see reason for innovation." Commander Alan Brooks spoke next. "Your offer assumes that my people will accept servitude and obedience. But the Empire should know something important about humans. We are a species that chooses our own path. We do not accept orders from those who do not earn our respect. We do not serve those who see us as less than equals." Lord Vikaos made a sound that might have been disagreement or might have been dismissal. "Your choice is irrelevant," he said. "The Empire has decided. Resistance is illogical and will result in the destruction of your civilization. Your only rational option is compliance." Marcus raised his hand to stop Alan from responding. Instead, Marcus asked a simple question. "Lord Vikaos, how old is the Galactic Empire?" The alien paused. "The Empire has existed for 10,000 years. And in those 10,000 years," Marcus said, "you have conquered how many civilizations? 1,347 species have been brought into the Empire." Lord Vikaos replied with a note of pride. "And all of them," Marcus said slowly, "accepted the idea that surrender was their only option." "Yes," Lord Vikaos said. "All rational species eventually recognize the futility of resistance. The Empire is inevitable." Marcus leaned forward and made a statement that would echo through the Empire's records for years to come. "Lord Vikaos, I will tell you something true. My people do not think like the other species you have encountered. We have faced extinction many times. We have stood at the edge of complete destruction, and every time we have chosen not to give up. We have chosen to fight. We have chosen to innovate. And we have survived." He paused, letting his words carry weight. "That is not weakness disguised as bravery," Marcus continued. "That is the core of who we are. We do not accept ultimatums. We do not bow to those who order us to bow. And we certainly do not abandon ourselves to serve masters who see us as primitive tools." Lord Vikaos stood up from the table. The gesture was sudden and sharp. "You are refusing the Empire's offer." "No," Marcus said. "We are making a counteroffer. Sit down, Lord Vikaos, and listen to what humanity has to offer the Empire." The alien hesitated for a long moment. Then, slowly, he sat back down. This was unexpected behavior. Other species negotiated for time, pleaded for mercy, or attempted to demonstrate their technological capacity. None of them had ever made a counteroffer to the Empire. The Empire views us as primitive because of our technology, Marcus explained. But that is not where human strength lies. Our strength lies in our ability to think in ways that other species cannot. It lies in our willingness to take risks that others see as suicide. It lies in our ability to find creative solutions to impossible problems. The Empire has 10,000 years of tradition and hierarchy. But sometimes, tradition becomes a prison. Sometimes, hierarchy prevents the very innovations needed to solve new problems. Carol Davis opened a file on her datapad. We propose a partnership. Humanity will serve the Empire, but not as simple laborers. We will serve as problem solvers, as explorers, as those willing to venture into situations that other species find too dangerous or too unpredictable. We will offer the Empire the one resource we have in abundance: human determination, human creativity, and human refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Lord Vicaeus looked at the contracts still sitting on the table between them. Then he looked at Marcus. For the first time since entering the conference room, the alien seemed uncertain. This is not how negotiations with the Empire are conducted, Lord Vicaeus said slowly. No, Marcus agreed. This is how negotiations are conducted between equals. We are offering the Empire something it does not already have. We are offering something that the other 1,347 conquered species could never offer. We are offering to transform from conquered enemies into valued partners. The meeting continued for hours. By the time Lord Vicaeus and his delegation returned to their ship, no contracts had been signed. But something had shifted in the delicate balance between the Empire and humanity. The Empire's delegation returned to their homeworld with reports of a species that had done something unprecedented. They had refused to surrender. More than that, they had laughed at the idea. The report from Lord Vicaeus created chaos in the Empire's High Council. For 10,000 years, the Empire had operated under a simple principle. All species eventually surrendered. Resistance was always temporary, always ending in the same inevitable outcome. Yet here was a detailed account of a primitive species, not only refusing to surrender, but actually proposing terms of their own. The High Council debated for 3 days. Some members wanted an immediate military strike to teach humanity the price of defiance. Others thought humanity might be bluffing, trying to delay the inevitable. A few members, however, found the situation intriguing. They wondered what could make a species so young and so primitive respond with such confidence to a demand for surrender done in the end. The Council made a decision. They would accept humanity's proposal, but only as a test. The Empire would give humans dangerous missions, the kind of work that other species refused or failed to complete. If humanity proved capable, fine. If humanity failed, they would be blamed for their own destruction. The Empire would have its answer, and more importantly, it would have its justification. Within 2 weeks, humanity received its first assignment from the Empire. Commander Alan Brooks, Captain Marcus Webb, and a team of 300 human soldiers and specialists were dispatched to a region of space called the Keth Sector. The sector had been plagued for decades by an infestation of parasitic aliens called the Volrax. These creatures were not organized like most species. They did not have politics or culture or art. They were biological weapons, pure and simple. They infected host organisms and slowly consumed them from the inside out, gaining the knowledge and memories of their hosts as they did so. The Empire had tried multiple times to eliminate the Volrax. They had sent advanced military forces. They had attempted biological weapons. They had even tried to sterilize entire planets where the infection had taken hold. Nothing had worked. The Velrax simply spread faster than the Empire could contain them. Most species assigned to the sector did not survive their mission. Those who did completed their assignments and fled, leaving the problem barely dented. Alan received his briefing in a command center that had been hastily assembled on the moon of a distant planet. The briefing officer was an old alien who had served in the Empire for longer than humanity had even existed as a technological species. "Your mission is simple," the briefing officer said. "Eliminate the Velrax threat in Sector 7 of the Keth region. All available resources have been made available to you. The Empire has failed here. We do not expect you to succeed. We simply expect you to try." Alan studied the maps and data about the Velrax. What he saw was a species that followed biological patterns, not strategic patterns. They spread through infection, reproduction, and hunger. They did not think the way a military enemy thinks. They thought the way a disease thinks. "We will need to change our approach," Alan said to his officers. "The Empire has been fighting the Velrax like a military enemy. But the Velrax are not an army. They are a plague. We need to think like scientists, not soldiers." He called Dr. Lisa Park, who was coordinating human efforts across several different assignments in the Empire. "I need xenobiologists," he said. "I need people who understand parasites, plagues, and infection vectors. I need people who can think like microorganisms." Within 3 days, Alan had assembled a new team. Scientists worked alongside soldiers. They studied the Velrax carefully, observing their behavior, learning their patterns. What they discovered was that the Velrax were not actually difficult to kill. They were fragile individually. The problem was that there were too many of them to kill individually. So Alan changed the strategy entirely. Instead of trying to kill all the Velrax at once, he devised a plan to stop them from spreading. His teams developed a chemical compound that did not kill the Velrax directly, but prevented them from reproducing. Combined with aggressive quarantine procedures and targeted elimination of infected colonies, the compound slowly turned the tide. It took 3 months. It took casualties. It took every ounce of human determination and creativity. But at the end of 3 months, the Velrax infestation in Sector 7 was controlled. New cases were still being reported, but the rate of new infection had dropped by 90%. The rate of reproduction had dropped by 99%. The Empire's military leaders received Alan's report with shock. They sent their own verification teams, and all the reports came back the same. The Velrax, which had been an unconquerable plague for decades, was now under control. The problem that had broken countless other species and countless Empire military forces had been solved by humans. But Alan's team did not stop there. They developed a strategy to completely eliminate the remaining Velrax and prevent them from ever rising again. They shared this strategy with the Empire's researchers. They trained other species in the techniques they had developed. Within a year, the Velrax infestation had been reduced by 80% across the entire region. And that was just the beginning. Other missions came. A human team solved a resource shortage on a critical world by discovering a new method of mining that other species had considered too risky. A human diplomatic team negotiated peace between 2 colonial worlds that had been on the edge of war for 5 years. A human exploration team found a new jump gate, route through space that the Empire's cautious explorers had deemed too unpredictable. Each mission added to a growing reputation. Each success proved that humanity was not simply bluffing when they spoke of their strengths. Each completed mission showed the Empire something that confused them deeply. These primitive creatures, this young species from a dangerous world, was outperforming civilizations that had thousands of years of experience and vastly superior technology. The news spread through the Empire's military and scientific establishments. There were those who became angry, who saw human success as a threat to the old order. There were those who became curious, who wanted to understand how a species so primitive could be so effective. And there were those who began to laugh at the irony of the situation. The Galactic Empire, which had conquered over 1,000 species through the promise of inevitable victory, had found one that refused to play by the expected rules. Humanity had not surrendered. Humanity had not begged for mercy. Instead, humanity had shown the Empire that perhaps, just perhaps, the Empire did not understand everything about strength. In the halls of the High Council, whispers began to circulate. Some said that the Empire had made a grave mistake in not destroying humanity when it had the chance. Others said that the mistake had been in underestimating them. And a very few, began to suggest something radical. Perhaps humanity was not a species to be conquered at all. Perhaps humanity was a species to be allied with. This thought would have seemed absurd 3 months ago. Today, as human teams continued to solve problems across the Empire, it seemed less absurd with each passing day. 6 months into humanity's service to the Galactic Empire, Captain Marcus Webb received a priority message from the High Council. He was to present to them in person, along with a small delegation of human officers. The message did not specify what the meeting would be about, but it did make clear that his attendance was not optional. Marcus traveled to the Empire's capital world with Dr. Lisa Part, Commander Alan Brooks, and Commander Carol Davis. The planet itself was a marvel of ancient technology and power. Towers of crystal and metal stretched into the sky, and ships of incredible size and elegance filled the landing platforms. The humans walked through corridors where beings from 1,000 different species moved about their business. Some watched the humans with curiosity. Others watched with something that looked like respect, or perhaps respect mixed with confusion. The High Council chamber was enormous. It was designed to remind those who entered of the Empire's ancient power and inevitable authority. The walls were covered with the names of conquered species, a record of 10,000 years of dominance. 17 members of the High Council sat in elevated positions, looking down at where Marcus and his delegation stood. High Chancellor Orthos spoke first. His voice was deep and carried the weight of absolute authority. He had led the Empire for 200 years and had never questioned his absolute right to rule. Captain Marcus Webb, Orthos began, I will be direct with you. When the Empire first learned of your species, we expected a simple acquisition. Your people would join the Empire, just as all other species have. Instead, something unexpected has occurred. Your people have proven valuable in ways we did not anticipate. This requires explanation. Marcus stood straight, meeting the High Chancellor's gaze without fear. He understood that this was a crucial moment. The Empire was confused, and confusion was dangerous. But it was also opportunity. High Chancellor, Marcus said, the Empire made an error in understanding. You measured my people's capacity through technology. You looked at our ships and weapons and found them lacking. You looked at our world and saw danger rather than strength. But technology is not what makes a species strong. Lord Vicaeus stood from his seat. You claim this, yet you offer no evidence. We have given your people dangerous missions, and some have been completed successfully. But that does not make you strong. It makes you lucky. It means we selected tasks you happen to be capable of completing. Alan stepped forward. That would be true if we had failed on some missions while succeeding on others. But we have succeeded on every single mission you have given us, no matter how difficult. You sent us to control a plague you could not control. We did it. You sent us to solve resource shortages you could not solve. We did it. You sent us to negotiate peace in conflicts that had gone on for years. We did it. This is not luck, Lord Vicaeus. This is the result of what my people are. Dr. Lisa Park projected data onto the large screen that dominated the center of the chamber. The data showed humanity's evolution as a species. It showed how they had survived repeated extinction events. It showed how they had built civilization despite living on a world more dangerous than any other known world in the galaxy. "The Empire is 10,000 years old," Lisa said. "But my species has existed for 300,000 years. We have survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, and biological plagues. We have developed every form of government, every form of art, every form of philosophy. We have learned how to adapt. We have learned how to think creatively when faced with problems that have no obvious solution." Carol Davis added her perspective. "But more than that, we understand something that the Empire seems to have forgotten. We understand that cooperation is more powerful than conquest. We understand that diversity of thought creates better solutions than pure authority. We understand that a species does not grow stronger by dominating others. It grows stronger by learning from others." The chamber fell silent. The High Council members exchanged glances with each other. After 10,000 years of absolute authority, these words hit differently than they might have with any other species. High Chancellor Orthos leaned forward. "You are saying that the Empire is weak." "No," Marcus said firmly. "I am saying that the Empire has become comfortable. Comfortable with the way things are. Comfortable with the assumption that conquest is inevitable. But comfort leads to blindness. It leads to missing opportunities. It leads to failing to see threats until it is too late." One of the younger council members, a being made of pure energy contained in a quantum field, spoke up. "The human does have a point, Chancellor. For 3,000 years, we have encountered no serious resistance. We have not been required to innovate for generations. Perhaps comfort has indeed made us stale." Orthos raised his hand for silence. "Tell me, Captain Webb, if we were to accept that you have value beyond simple labor, what would you propose? What would humanity want in exchange for continued service to the Empire?" Marcus had prepared for this question. He had spent weeks planning his response with his best strategists. "We would want recognition as a sovereign species," Marcus said. "We would want a seat on this High Council so that human voices could be heard in the decisions that affect the future. We would want the resources to explore space on our own terms, not just following the orders of the Empire. And we would want the knowledge to grow our own technological capacity. We will never be as old as the Empire, but we can be its partners rather than its servants." The chamber erupted in heated debate. Some council members found this demand absurd. Others found it almost reasonable given what humanity had accomplished. The argument went on for hours. Finally, Orthos raised his hand for silence once more. "We will consider your proposal, Captain Webb. But first, I am assigning humanity one more mission. One more test, if you will. This task will separate the capable from the merely lucky. You will succeed or you will fail, and your answer will determine humanity's status in the Empire." Alan spoke before Marcus could respond. "What is the task, Chancellor?" Orthos smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "The Krentax Rebellion," he said simply. "A human colony that was settled under Empire direction has declared independence. They refuse to acknowledge Empire authority. They have fortified themselves on a planet that your own people colonized. They are well supplied, well protected, and most critically, they are using human weapons and human tactics that the Empire does not fully understand." "You want us to kill our own people," Carol said quietly. "I want you to prove your loyalty to the Empire," Orthos corrected. "I want you to show that your values are with us, not with renegade humans who challenge our authority. This is your real test, Captain Webb. Can you look your own people in the eye and demand their surrender? Can you enforce the will of the Empire even when it conflicts with the ties of blood?" Marcus felt the weight of the moment. This was not what he had expected. This was something far more difficult than any mission the Empire could devise. This was a test of what humanity actually was. The Krentax Rebellion was not what the High Council expected. Marcus did not lead a military force to crush the rebellion and slaughter his own people. Instead, he did something far more unexpected. He requested a meeting with the rebellion's leaders. The meeting took place on the surface of Krentax Prime, in neutral territory between the two human forces. Marcus came with a small escort. The rebel leader, a woman named Jennifer Wells, came with her own small group. They sat across from each other at a simple table under the stars of an alien world. "You are here to demand our surrender," Jennifer said. "It was not a question." "I am here because the High Council gave me an order," Marcus replied. "But I did not come to demand surrender. I came to understand." Jennifer stared at him. "Understand what?" "Why you chose this path," Marcus said. "You are colonists from Earth. You chose to come to this world under Empire contracts, knowing that you would be far from home, knowing that you would be working for an ancient power that sees us as tools. Why did you rebel?" Jennifer took a long breath. "Because I could not watch my children grow up as servants. Because I could not accept that the only future my grandchildren would have is obedience to the Empire. Because I remembered Earth, and I remembered what it means to be free." Marcus nodded slowly. He understood. The Empire had made a critical error in its understanding of humanity. It had assumed that humans could be broken, could be made to accept slavery, could be transformed from independent species into obedient tools. But humans had spent 300,000 years learning to be free. Freedom was not a preference. It was a requirement of their nature. "The Empire has given me an order," Marcus said finally. "They want me to crush this rebellion. They want me to prove my loyalty by destroying my own people. They believe that this will show whether I serve the Empire or humanity. And what will you do?" Jennifer asked. Marcus smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was no doubt in it. "I will do what humans have always done when faced with impossible choices. I will find a third path." Within the hour, Marcus had made contact with High Chancellor Orthos. What he told the Chancellor was this: the Krentax Rebellion did not need to be crushed. Instead, it could be negotiated with. The rebels had legitimate grievances about how the Empire treated its colonies. These grievances could be addressed through policy changes that would benefit not just the Krentax colony, but all human colonies under Empire rule. Furthermore, Marcus explained, destroying the colony would be a waste. The colony had resources, knowledge, and skilled workers. It was far more valuable to the Empire intact than destroyed. "You are asking me to let them go unpunished," Orthos said coldly. "I am asking you to recognize reality," Marcus replied. "The reality is that humans cannot be forced into obedience through conquest and punishment. We can only cooperate with those we respect. We can only serve those we choose to serve. The Krentax Rebellion is proof of this. Crush them, and you show humanity that the Empire cannot be trusted. Show them mercy and recognition of their grievances, and you prove that the Empire is capable of learning." The High Chancellor paused. Then something remarkable happened. Orthos began to laugh. It started as a low sound and built into genuine laughter. Around the chamber, other council members began to laugh as well. Some laughed from genuine amusement at the irony of the situation. Others laughed because they finally understood what the humans had been trying to tell them all along. "You are extraordinary creatures," Orthos said when he finally stopped laughing. "You were given an order to destroy your own people, and instead you negotiated a peace. You were tested to see if you would commit atrocity for the sake of the Empire, and instead you showed the Empire that atrocity is not necessary." He made a decision right there in the chamber. The Krentax Rebellion is recognized as a legitimate grievance. The Empire will establish new policies regarding how colonies are governed and what rights they retain. Captain Marcus Webb, you have passed the test, but not in the way you think. You have not proven your loyalty to the Empire through obedience. You have proven that humanity's greatest strength is wisdom. 3 weeks later, Marcus Webb stood in the Grand Hall of the Empire's capital alongside 17 members of the High Council. He stood at a podium that had been created specifically for this purpose. For the first time in 10,000 years, a representative from a previously conquered species addressed the full council. 10,000 years ago, Marcus began. The Galactic Empire began its expansion. You looked at the universe and saw opportunity. You saw chaos that needed order. You saw primitive species that needed to be brought into civilization. You were not entirely wrong. Chaos does need order. Civilization does benefit communities. He paused and let his words settle. But somewhere along the way, the Empire forgot something important. It forgot that there are many forms of order. It forgot that civilization can be built in many ways. It forgot that strength is not just power or technology. Strength is also wisdom. Strength is also the ability to change your mind when you encounter new evidence. Strength is the ability to laugh at yourself when you realize you have been wrong. Marcus looked directly at Lord Vikaos, the same alien who had delivered the original ultimatum. When your delegation first contacted humanity, you made a judgment. You looked at us and saw a primitive species living on a dangerous world. You expected us to surrender immediately. You expected fear. Instead, we laughed. We laughed because we recognized the absurdity of your assessment. We laughed because we understood something you had forgotten. A species born on a harsh world does not become weak. It becomes unbreakable. The Grand Hall was completely silent. Every being present understood that they were witnessing something historic. The Galactic Empire conquered through fear and force, Marcus continued. The Empire took species and made them serve through the threat of destruction. But I offer you something different. Humanity offers alliance. Humanity offers partnership. Humanity offers the chance to grow together, to learn from each other, to become stronger, not through conquest but through unity. He made his final statement carefully. 10,000 years ago, the Empire was young and full of wonder. Somewhere along the way, that wonder was lost. Humanity is here to help the Empire find it again. We are here not as conquered servants, but as partners in rediscovering what the universe can be. The chamber erupted. Some beings were shocked. Some were angry. But many of them were laughing. They laughed because they finally understood the cosmic joke that humanity had been trying to tell them since the very beginning. The Galactic Empire, in all its ancient power and authority, had been beaten not by a superior force, but by something far more dangerous. A species that refused to accept that it was impossible to challenge the Empire. A species that looked at conquest and chose partnership instead. A species that could laugh at the universe's greatest power and show it something it had never seen before. In the end, humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to believe that their world was too small or their people too weak. It was their absolute certainty that there was always another way, always another path, always another answer that had not yet been discovered. And so the Galactic Empire learned to laugh. It learned to look at itself and see not perfection, but potential. It learned that even after 10,000 years, there was still so much more to learn. The universe had tried to teach it through conquest and conquest alone. But it took a young species from a dangerous world to finally teach the Empire the most important lesson of all, that laughter, hope, and the refusal to surrender are stronger than any weapon in existence. Humanity had not conquered the Galactic Empire. Humanity had simply refused to accept that the Empire was worth conquering. And in that refusal, humanity had changed everything.